Do you ever sit down to do something that you really need to do, say studying for example? You open up your notes and then all of a sudden you're on Instagram scrolling through reels. Then you eventually see enough half-naked people and videos of people falling off buildings, so you get back to work. But then 5 minutes later, you're in the bathroom cleaning the sink, and by the time you were supposed to be finished studying, you have actually done nothing. So why is this distraction so difficult to overcome? It's because you're not going deep. And this book, Deep Work by Cal Newport, will show you how. And once you grasp this concept, there's no going back. Before we get into the book, we must understand the difference between deep work and shallow work. Deep work is focused, undistracted effort on cognitively demanding tasks that create high value and push your skills to the limit. On the other hand, shallow work is low effort, often logistical or repetitive tasks performed while distracted, which adds little value and are easy to replicate. So now that we have the understanding of the difference between deep work and shallow work, Cal Newport, the author, makes a great case for why deep work is so valuable. According to Newport, there are two core abilities to be able to thrive in this current economy. One, the ability to quickly master hard things, and two, the ability to produce at an elite level in terms of both quality and speed. And he makes the point that both of these abilities depend on your ability to perform deep work. And he goes on to make the case for how this can make you stand out and how it can make you get ahead of the competition. And he also gives a really cool equation to describe this whole thing. And the equation is high quality work produced equals time spent multiplied by intensity of focus. And if you think about that, it's actually really cool, because if we increase the time spent, it increases the multiple. If we increase the focus, it increases the multiple. But if you spend a lot of time with no focus, say focus is 0, the whole equation equals 0. So it shows how important both time spent and focus is, but mainly focus, because it can multiply the whole equation by 0. So now that we understand that deep work is valuable, Newport goes on to make the point that deep work is meaningful. And he presents a really cool study that showed that people were actually happier at work and less happy when relaxing than they suspected. There's a really cool quote in this chapter, but I can't pronounce the guy's name. I'll put it up on the screen now and you'll be able to see why. And the quote is, I'm going to read it here. Ironically, jobs are actually easier to enjoy than free time, because like flow activities, they have built-in goals, feedback rules and challenges, all of which encourage one to be involved in one's work, to concentrate and lose oneself in it. Free time, on the other hand, is unstructured and requires much greater effort to be shaped into something that can be enjoyed. And that's a quote from Mihaly and his second name. And there's another quote that I like. I think it could be from Alex Hormozi. I don't know, but it applies to this, is that your work works on you more than you work on it. So if you build a deep work practice, it'll teach you how to go deep in all sorts of other things. But now that we understand that deep work is valuable and deep work is meaningful, we must understand the 4 philosophies of deep work. So these are 4 ways you can go about doing your deep work. First, we have the monastic philosophy of deep work. And the basis of this philosophy is to maximize your deep work by completely eliminating your shallow work. So it's pretty much going ghost, going into the woods in a cabin and living in there and just writing, if that's your thing. This only really works when the bulk of your success comes from doing one thing really well. Say it's one task like writing, and you don't have any other obligations for your job, such as actually having to communicate with people. So this is very rare, but some people are able to do it. The second philosophy of deep work is the bimodal philosophy. And this is where you divide your time up and you dedicate specific stretches of maybe days or weeks to deep work and leaving the rest for everything else. And during the deep work period, you act like the monastic philosophy, meaning you go ghost and you actually just do your work and that's it. As an example of this bimodal philosophy, he uses Carl Jung. who would retreat into a log cabin. I'm not sure if it was a log cabin, I can't remember, but it was a cabin of some sort that he built specifically for deep work, and he'd retreat there for a couple of days or a couple of weeks just to focus on deep work, and he would completely shun any outside obligations or anything else. And that was because he had a busy clinical practice to run during the day, so he could take time off from that, but he couldn't just leave it, so he had to apply the bimodal philosophy instead of the monastic philosophy. And the third philosophy of deep work is the rhythmic philosophy. This is the philosophy that will suit most people. It's integrating deep work into your life as a regular habit. So say you have a set schedule daily. Maybe before you go to work you do an hour of deep work, or in the evening you do an hour of deep work, say, and it's a daily repeatable schedule. And this is probably the easiest one for most people to do, to fit into their calendar. And then we have the journalistic philosophy. And this is using any free time to switch into a deep work mode and go do some deep work. And this philosophy is really best only for people who can easily switch into that mode. It's normally for writers because they can switch into writing mode very easily. But if you can pull this one off, more power to you. I'd find this very hard to do without having a set schedule. But once you know which philosophy will work best for you, it's now time to move on to the next step, which is building your deep work ritual. And Newport opens this chapter with a couple of questions to ponder. The first question is where you'll work and for how long. And he says that if possible, find a location that you can use only for deep work so that your mind can click into that deep work mode when you sit down there. Find somewhere that's as free as possible from distractions. Libraries are great. And specify how long you will work for, maybe an hour, 2 hours, whatever. And the second question is how you'll work once you start to work. So these could be things like putting your phone away while you're working, or wearing certain clothes if that floats your boat. And also choosing metrics for your work, such as words typed, or I don't know, equations figured out, or questions practiced for studying. And it's very important to specify these things so that you don't have to go and figure all this out as you are doing your deep work practice, because that will just distract you and you don't need that. And the third question is how you'll support your work. So support your work pretty much means doing whatever you can to get your brain into the optimal state for deep work. So it could be having a cup of coffee before you start. It could be going for a walk to clear your mind, or meditating if you're into that. But this must also be predetermined so that you do not have to think about it before starting deep work. And once we have these things figured out and we have them set in stone, Newport presents 4 disciplines of deep work, or the 4DX framework as he calls it. Discipline number 1 is focus on the wildly important. So you should set specific and important goals, a very small amount of them, and focus only on that, and focus only on the actions that drive those goals the hardest. So this eliminates any kind of sidetracking and getting distracted by other opportunities that might not be as important to you as your important goal. Discipline number 2, act on lead measures. So you've got lead measures and lag measures, and the lag measures are usually the result that you're looking for. So he gives the example of a bakery looking to improve customer satisfaction, and customer satisfaction is a lag measure, but you need to find out the lead measure that drives that. It could be how you bake the cakes, or how the cakes are delivered to the customers. That could be the lead measure, and how many times you do that. And then you can see if it actually affects the lag measure. But you can't go by the lag measure because the performance that drove that is already in the past. So figure out what lead measure drives the lag measure. Discipline number 3, keep a compelling scoreboard. So we all know what gets measured gets managed, and people play different when they're keeping score. So you're more likely. So say I have a calendar over there with deep work, like when I do my deep work every day, I tick it off. It allows you to see how much deep work you've actually accumulated, and will motivate you to go on and do more. And a great measure for this is hours spent working deeply. It's probably the easiest one to do. So get an Excel sheet or a calendar or something, or even a piece of paper, and just mark down whenever you do deep work, or 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever, and count it up. Which brings us on to discipline number 4, which is create a cadence of accountability. So this is pretty much just keeping yourself in check. If you're working solo, you can do maybe weekly reviews at the end of the week, see if you hit your deep work goals, if you did the hours that you were supposed to do, use your scoreboard. Or if you're in a team, You can compare scoreboards and see who's doing more, see who's getting results, and bounce ideas around, and everyone gets better. So those are the 4 disciplines of deep work. And then the author goes on to make the point that you can't spend all day, every day doing deep work because it's just cognitively impossible. Your brain doesn't have that much energy, and it demands a lot of brain power to actually go in and do deep work. So he presents to us this chapter: be lazy. And he goes on to write about downtime and how important it is for deep work. He says that downtime aids insights, downtime helps recharge the energy needed to work deeply, and that the work that evening downtime usually replaces is not that important. And he also goes on to say that using the internet for entertainment is not downtime. Being on social media is not downtime. So you just got to kind of figure out what your downtime is. Maybe go out for a walk or read a book or just chill out, just sleep. And now that we have a decent understanding of deep work and we have built our deep work ritual and we understand that downtime and being lazy in the right time is important, we now need to drain the shallows, meaning get rid of as much unnecessary shallow work that you can. And this chapter opens with the story of a business, and I can't remember the name of it, but they went from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week, and they got criticized everywhere by the whole media. But what happened is they actually got the same amount of work done in just 4 days as they would 5, and they didn't extend any of the hours. It was 4 8-hour days versus 5 8-hour days. And they did this by eliminating all the shallow work that was not necessary to push towards their goals. And then they only focused on the deep work that was important to their goals. And the main lesson I got from this chapter is that shallow work is often less important than it seems in the moment. And some shallow work is necessary, but it's not nearly as much as you might think. So there were 3 things that really resonated with me in this chapter on how to eliminate shallow work. One was schedule every minute of every day. So I mean, not literally every single minute. Like, don't be like, oh, at 10:15 I'm going to the bathroom, and at 10:17 I'll walk back into my room. No, not like that. Just schedule the tasks for what you're going to do. And also quantify the depth of each activity. Have a good hard look at it and see how important it is to you, and see, can you do without it? And then focus on the ones that are the most important. And another one is become hard to reach. In this, he talks about email and messaging, and he says put more effort into the messages you send and get people to put more effort into the messages they send you. So the frequency of communication decreases, but the information that's needed to get across is still the same. So you can reduce distraction by doing this. We now understand the difference between deep work and shallow work. We understand that deep work is meaningful. We understand that deep work is valuable. We have built our deep work ritual. We have drained the shallows. And now it's time to come to the conclusion of the book. Deep work is not for everyone. It demands hard work and drastic habit changes. And for many, there is comfort in the shallows of social media and constant distraction. And the deep life requires you to leave most of that behind. Also, it can be daunting to put effort into producing the best work that you can, as it can bring to light the fact that your best might just not be good enough yet. But if you're willing to face these fears and discomforts and fully deploy your mind to create things that matter, you'll discover that depth generates a life rich with productivity and meaning. And this is one of the books that I would recommend to anyone. It really changed my perspective on what work meant and how important work is, and it made me enjoy my work more. So if you like this video, like the video. If you don't like the video, don't like the video. And if you want to hear more from me, I'd appreciate it greatly if you hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.